Dear God, I just don't understand. How can it be that dirty? Seriously? Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So we're going to do a real quick video today. This was the second of the Xbox 360 controllers I picked up in a job lot. As soon as I pulled it out of the plastic wrap, it baffles me how these controllers get this dirty, but this is obscene. So I'll tell you what, we're going to fast forward through a little quick montage of actually we're disassembling this. I'm not going to show that. This one did come to me broken. So we had some analog sticks, and I believe the left bumper was not working properly. It wasn't clicking. It feels clicky to me. But said that wasn't working, so no big deal there. We're going to pull those apart, the controller apart, replace those, clean this up, make sure it's functional, and see what we can do. We might change this LED light out too, just for giggles, and see what we can do. Maybe we'll turn it red. Red usually looks good on a white controller, so we'll do that. Tell you what, let me get set up, grab everything I need, and we're going to pull this guy apart in a quick montage and get her all cleaned up. Alright guys, we got everything disassembled. That didn't take too long. Pretty quick and easy, straightforward once you've done it once or twice. Not really any big surprises on this thing coming apart. We're going to get into, I'm going to take all the plastics and get them to start soaking, and I'm probably going to soak them in pure acid because that's just, I've never understood how they get so dirty and how people allow them to get so dirty. But glossing over all of that, that's not really a concern. We're gonna take those over there, and then we're gonna clean up this board. We're gonna replace both of these two switches and both of these two switches. And I think we might switch this LED out to a red. Everything else feels pretty good. Microsoft switched over to later on in the design, the Xbox, from these, I call them mechanical. They're mechanical soft. There's a little piece of gold, little gold tab that's kind of domed up underneath here that actually makes contact versus these carbon switches. The rest of the board. Later in the Xbox life cycle, the Xbox One controller, they switched over and put the carbon pads everywhere because they're a lot more reliable. These feel pretty good. You can peel this up and change those out, replace them, but they feel pretty good. I don't see any problem with those. Those guys feel pretty good. The way to test them is to take the tip of your finger your fingernail and put it right in the center and just push straight down without the D-pad itself down there on it, and just kind of feel for the, you want to feel a little bit of a pop. And if you're feeling that, they're in good shape. That board's good to go. That board's good to go. One word of caution, and I do always caution people about this, the Xbox button itself, the home button, we're going to clean by hand with a toothbrush and isopropyl. If you put this in soap and water, not all of these, this one particularly will not be a problem. We could do it. We're not going to. The ones that have the chrome look to them or the silverish look, that is, I don't know how else to explain it other than tape. I say tape, some light painting or some plating, and that will actually peel off. So you don't want to douse that in water because it will peel off when you go to scrub it. You just want to clean that by hand. Let me take all these plastics over and toss them in, and then we'll get to work on this board, and then we'll do a reassembly montage, and this video will be nice and quick. Alright, welcome back, guys. I wanted to take just a second and talk real quick. I got these plastics all cleaned up. They were an absolute nightmare to get fully cleaned. The rest of them are sitting over there drying. But I wanted to bring the back of this over and show it to you guys so you can see how clean it came. And I wanted to talk about what I used to do this. So I usually go after it with what I'm cleaning with a toothbrush, and that usually works pretty well. When I get to gunk like what was on here, and a toothbrush and soap and vinegar and everything's not cutting it, this is what I use. This is made by a company called Drill Brush. You can get them on Amazon. Sorry guys, I had to answer a phone call to extend my car's warranty. You know, everybody that's been out of warranty for several years, apparently it's just ran out. I'm sure Ford would be interested to know about that, but moving on. So these guys, you buy them in a pack of 4. I found them on Amazon looking for a plastic bristled wire brush. Simple 1/4 inch chuck, fit into any drill, chuck it in, pull the trigger. As it spins, it cleans. They come in a set of four of these, red, yellow, green, and white. Red being the most aggressive, white being the softest. And when I say soft, I mean this, no, not stiff at all. Very easy to move and such like that. I haven't had to use the red one on anything yet, but I just had to use the yellow one, or the yellow one, which is the second coarsest, for the first time on this guy. It came out absolutely beautiful. The good thing that I like about these is it will not damage the little surface perforations, the little indentations and stuff on this plastic at all. I would not use it on anything shiny, like a Wii U case or something like that. Anything that's got a gloss finish to it, because it's obviously gonna scratch the surface up. But for removing that impossible to remove dirt and grime, this is the ticket. Chuck it up in your drill. It'll clean it off real fast. Okay, let's set this aside. Let's get down to this board. First thing that we're going to do is we are going to pull out a set of our switches out of our bag and replace them. These are black face switches, which are fine, which pretty much on all 1708 model Xboxes, the button switches are black, and for most part they all are across the board. The color of the button itself makes no difference. You certainly can't see it from the outside. You can buy them in a pack. The pack that I've got, the button switches are white. When I say the button switches, the actual button on it itself is white. It'll make no difference whatsoever to your ability to use them, or whoever is going to use them. It won't change a thing on them. First thing that we're going to do, though, before we get carried away, we're going to go ahead, because we're going to be removing the analog sticks as well, and we're going to pre-tin these pads for us. Okay. And we're going to add a little bit of solder to these. My little helping hands out. If you don't have a set of helping hands, I recommend them. They are 90% of the time completely useless but boy, when they are helpful, are they ever helpful. Pre-tinning these I say pre-tinning, re-soldering, applying fresh solder to these solder joints will just make your life easier as you're removing them. You're not even super worried at this point about making a bridge. All these are coming off in very, very, very short order. All we're trying to do is get some fresh flux on it and make it easier for us to remove. Fresh flux and fresh solder on here. That's all we're trying to do. One of the questions I get asked a lot is, what temperature do I run my soldering iron at? Everybody's got what they like. I run mine warm. Warm, a lot of people would consider hot. I run at 384 degrees C. You don't need to. I tend to work pretty quickly, though. I don't want to be in that area very long. At 384, the good thing about running 380 plus, 380 degrees plus is, it will quicken the removal or the addition of solder to leaded or unleaded solder. In other words, you're not going to have to fight with leaded or unleaded. It's pretty much going to heat up whatever solder is there, which is what you want, and make it flow again. So instead of having to keep heat on the board for very long, I just turn my heat up and am there for, I'm applying more heat, but I'm doing it for a less duration. And that's one of those things you want to be sure. You don't want to apply heat, any more heat than you have to, for any more duration than you absolutely have to a board. Heat kills. Heat is the enemy to circuit boards. I think I've decided, sitting here thinking about it, I think I've decided not to change the LED on this board. No particular reason, other than I'm not doing any other mods to it whatsoever. And an LED mod is definitely cool. I've done those before on an Xbox One on the channel, and I've done them on a 360 on the channel. The videos are super, super, super easy to find, but if you don't know where they're at, I'll put a link here and here, and you guys can watch those guys. No need to continue to repeat the same thing over and over and over again. We're not going to switch that one out today because we've done it in the past. Once we fit our new switches in, okay, we'll go with it. Once we fit our new switches in, drop these guys right down. Apply a little bit of flux. The only part of this video I'm going to talk through is going to be replacement of the switches, just so you guys know what we're doing here. Again, and I try to stress this, use caution as much as you can when replacing these. I mean, listen, if one of them's damaged, you know, if your controller, if your bumpers stop working, I've never broken a set of bumpers. I've never broken a set of analog sticks. I've never personally myself had stick drift. I've never had that. I know a lot of people have, but I've never experienced that on any of my controllers. I don't think it's that I somehow take better care of my stuff than everybody else does. I think it's just maybe I've been lucky or don't use mine to play the same games. Perhaps I don't set my controller up the same as some people do. Maybe I'm just lucky. I don't know. But if you do get stick drift, if you get a tactile button, which is what these are. If you get a tactile button stops working, if you get an analog stick that stops functioning properly, if you get a directional pad or a ABXY button not working properly, this is the way that you go about fixing those. And I want to make sure people know that. Listen, I appreciate you selling your broken Xbox controller that doesn't work on eBay to me for $15, because I'm going to buy it. I'm going to put a couple of dollars in switches, and I'm going to turn around and resell the thing as a functional unit, which works out great for me. But you guys, you can fix this. These are not. Some of the repairs I do, I say, listen, don't touch this. Don't try. Just you're going to end up, if you don't know what you're doing, you're going to really tear something up. Changing these switches out. Matter of fact, let me throw these away before I forget. Changing these switches out is simple. It's not complicated. It's not hard work. It doesn't require any special tools to do. You can do this without a desoldering gun. You can do it with a pump, hand pump. You can do it with solder braid if you want. It takes you a little bit longer. It's a little bit more effort. You can do it without a high-end soldering iron. You can do it, without leaded solder, without Kester solder. You can do it without MG Chemicals flux. You can do it yourself. I'm not recommending that. I always recommend doing the best job you can. And if something costs 10 cents, versus a good part, if a bad part costs 10 cents and a good part costs $2, I recommend spending the $2. You're going to get a better result in the end. So why not spend the money? It's not like it's going to make you go bankrupt, but at the same time, if you don't have it, and your solution is, I either go out and buy a brand new $70 controller, because listen, let's all be honest, that's what they cost. We can kid ourselves, but that's what they cost. Even at $59.99 plus tax, by the time you're done paying the tax on them, and come on, it's a $70 controller. And instead of going out and buying one, guys, you can do this. This is nothing complicated. This is nothing hard. I appreciate, again, I'm not going to say I don't. Thank you very much for selling me your controller so cheap. I appreciate it. Maybe you don't feel comfortable doing it. Hey, that's fine. Let someone else do it for you if you're not sure. Sorry, I'm just reflowing these joints. They didn't come off clean. And again, when you're mixing solder types from what it was originally on here, which was non-leaded to a leaded solder, it doesn't always heat and remove cleanly. So sometimes you have to remove all you can, and then come back in, reflow the area with leaded solder, so that you can remove that, because that will remove quite a bit easier. But the important thing to remember is, some of this stuff requires advanced techniques. Some of it requires years of practice and skill to get right so that you don't tear anything up. Some of it requires a whole lot of luck, and some of it, again, guys, you can do this stuff yourself. Some Alp switches, in the grand scheme of things, are not very expensive. That's what came off of this board. That's what we're going to put back on it. Our Alp switches, they're not very expensive. You can buy a pack of Alp switches, or just what you need to do the job, for a few bucks. So, why would you not? Sometimes, so these big pins, and let me see if I can show you on this guy. These big pins in the corners, right here, this is all tied to the anchor point, to the ground plane on it, and it can take quite a bit of heat to get those to properly remove sometimes. Not a huge deal. Let your soldering iron rest for just a little bit longer. Put a little bit more heat in the board, a little bit more heat in the component. Instead of doing a 5 count in your head, do a 10 count. And see if that frees them up. Now we have created a problem. So we put too much heat in that guy. I pulled a via through hole off of that. Not a huge problem, because we can follow the trace. I'll put that under a microscope and show you how we do that. Tell you what, this guy right here just really didn't want to participate today. There we go. So we'll wiggle that one loose here in just a second. Let's go ahead and try. Now, generally, with the analog sticks, they don't come flying out. Some chips will drop right out. Some of them will not. Analog sticks never, in my experience, just come soaring right on out. They always require a little bit of fuss. And when I say a little bit, it shouldn't be much. but there's usually one tiny little piece of solder somewhere that will catch on one leg somewhere that won't let him come out. Voila, it's out. I said it was out. Look at there. So what ended up happening is this particular one wanted to come out. It tried to come out, but we, not paying attention, missed a couple of solder points. So we messed that one up. Oh well. So what I'm looking for here is I'm looking for which one of these legs is not moving when I twist this. You want to pay real close attention. You don't want to jerk and snatch and yank and everything else off the board. You want to pay real close attention so that you don't tear anything up. I reach into my bag of many things, my drawer of many things, round up a couple switches for us real quick. You can buy the knockoff, the clone switches that are not the Alps brand. You can get those. Listen, I'm not trying to tell you how to live your life. You buy whatever you want to buy. Here's what I will say. Alps switches, first off, you'd be shocked. A lot of times the lettering on them is hard to read. But Alps switches, they're OEM. That's what Microsoft, that's what Sony, that's what everybody, Nintendo, that's what they use. The best controllers, the ones with the best feedback on them, the ones with the best movement, they're all Alps. Okay? They work. They work really well. They're extraordinarily reliable. They don't tear up. They don't break down too much. Yes, you're going to have some with some stick drift issues. Yes, you're going to have some that occasionally don't function 100% the way you want them to. You know, sorry, that sucks. But for the most part, the best switches you can get are the Alps switches. Yes, you can get the cheaper ones. You buy what you want to buy. Don't let me tell you, you know, what to do with your money. What I will say is you absolutely get what you pay for when it comes to these analog switches. In longevity, in quality of game and movement, you'll get a lot of the analog sticks that come from various other parts of the country, China. And listen, some of the Alps switches are made in China. You know, not necessarily knocking the Chinese in any way. I've worked with the Chinese quite a bit. However, here's what I'll say. The Alps switches tend to be held to a much higher standard as far as how they're manufactured and what their tolerances are. I have seen, because I have not used, I have bought controllers where someone has went in and replaced non-Alps switches, and the dead zones are wrong. The controller doesn't pick up right. You know, it doesn't go. The stick doesn't, even though it physically moves all the way to the right, it doesn't physically move all the way to the right. Lots of different things, and you know, that's, if you're going to spend your money on it, why would you spend your money on that? You know, Get what you pay for. Get a quality product, something that's going to last a good long time, and take care of you down the road. All right. Let's stick this one in, and remember we got to do a little bit of trace repair on the other side over here. Because we ripped a through hole off, but that will be a super quick and easy fix for us. And I say a through hole, where they layer the fiberglass board and they put the copper back down onto it, the way they do this is it's almost like silk screening, the way they build these boards. And so they will apply copper to a sheet of fiberglass, fiberboard, Bakelite, whatever. And then what they'll do is they'll take the design of the PCB, the printed circuit board design that they want to use, okay? And they will lay that down and then use acid to remove all the copper that they don't want, leaving only the copper traces that they did actually want on the board. And that's how your circuit board's made. In areas where a component leg is going to come through, and an area where a component is going to attach on the board, they leave what's called a pad. When a component leg is going to come through a board, that's called a via. Now, you have through-hole vias, and then you have top or bottom mount vias. Your top and your bottom mount vias only have a pad. They may have a pad on the top and the bottom, but they only actually attach to one side of the board. Your through-hole vias can be plated all the way through and attached to both sides. So what we've got here, let me get the, first off, let me clean this up and then drag the microscope over real quick. What we did is this component leg comes all the way through, and it had a little bitty pad. And I'll show you exactly what it looked like underneath the microscope once I get the board cleaned up so it's not sticky, too sticky for me. Now, if you overheat this board, if you put too much heat into one of these pads, especially a through-hole pad, you will, not might, you will pull that off of the board, delaminate it, as it were, from the board itself. And when you do that, now your component leg has nowhere left to attach to. That is bad. That is not, definitely not what you want. So I'm going to see if I can do this. Try to find a way for my helping hands here to hold my board, and let me track it down. I think that's us right there. Okay. Getting these helping hands to stay stable while I'm doing this is going to be a little bit of a trick. Let me kill this light here for you guys to see a little bit better. Okay. So, moving up, what we've got is this particular trace right here. This guy right here. So if you can look underneath this, you can see on this one that this had copper to land to. If I move up here, so what you can see in this one, and let me see if I can zoom in a little bit. Let me adjust and get a good clear picture for you guys. So these little guys right here that look like upside down diamonds, okay? All of these guys. That is our solder, and underneath that solder is our little through hole plated via. And if I didn't lose him, is it him? Don't know. And usually they're square-shaped-ish. Square-shaped-ish. Might be easier to move the camera to the trace. There we go. Okay, let's get him right about there. Okay. This one, though, as I heated it up, I pulled it away. Now, where did this go? So now we can still see the component leg in here. If I put solder on it, it will not be able to attach to the board because there's nothing there. This is our trace. This dark green line that you're seeing right here came up and tied to this pad right up here, okay? And that pad is what our pin soldered to. So what we've got to do, and you can see the end of that trace right there folding over. So here's what we're going to do. Since the end of that trace is already folded over, that's going to make our life really easy. Really easy. All we're going to do, a little bit of flux down, and we're going to put a little bit of solder right here on that. Just a dab. A little bit of solder right here. And take our tiny little tweezers. Now I want you guys to understand, when I do this in the microscope, you guys see a nice clear image. I see that, right? Because you can't see what I'm doing, and thus you can't learn anything if I don't leave the microscope where you can see it. It doesn't do you any good at all. The problem is when I leave the microscope where you can see it, I can no longer see it. Now, not a big deal for me. I'll work that out. I'll handle that part of it. But it makes it very challenging a lot of times to get this level of job done. And so that we understand, okay, that's the size of my tweezers. Let's see here. Let me find something that we will all know the size of. Right off the top. Okay, here we go. Perfect. There's the tip of an ink pen right there, okay? Let me slide the tip of the ink pen underneath here. So you can see the tip of this ink pen. This is a Pilot G207, okay? The tip of the ink pen is bigger, okay? And if we set the tip of the ink pen up there by the trace, imagine, you can see how much smaller the trace is. Imagine, if you will, trying to solder on half of the tip of the ink pen. That's what we're trying to hit. That's our aim. That's our goal. That's what we have to repair. That little tiny bit of an area right there. Okay? So, what we're going to do is, we've got a bunch of little pieces. Now, let me save you guys some effort in the long run in your life. As you clip off, as you replace things and fix things on boards and whatnot, you're going to end up with all these little component legs. And when I say component legs, a component leg is, let me grab a pair of tweezers and slide it underneath here. It's just a little piece off the end of a LED light or off the end of a capacitor or whatever. You're going to end up with all of these. There's tons of them. You're going to have thousands of them. Throw away most of them, but keep you handy some of these. They'll be in different sizes and lengths and things like that, right? Keep handy some of them. You don't need a bunch. Always keep you a couple laying around. Because, believe it or not, they are just about the perfect, and I'm sorry, I'm nipping off one end of this, the perfect repair thing most of the time. They are just about the perfect thing to use to repair most of the time. Not all of the time. So there's a little piece I clipped off. We're still too long, so I'm gonna nip him down just a little bit more. Just a little bit more. There we go. Set him back down. What I'm going to do is attempt to pick him up and do this 90 degrees from what I am used to doing things. Oh my God. I almost lost it. I did lose it. Okay. It's no problem. We're going to do this the easier way. What we're going to do is we're going to pick up our entire thing. Let me reposition this board because I've got to be able to come in here and work on this in some manner of a way. Okay, there we go. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our little piece, the problem is my tweezers right there are no good for this. There's your problem. Tweezers are no good. So what we're going to do so this little piece of copper, this little bit of solder on it, right here on the end, we're going to slide our little pin down here just as gently as we can. Said we were going to. We may not do that at all. Add it. Let it go. Okay, component leg's not working out for us, and I'm not going to sit here and fight it for the rest of my life. It's just not worth that to me. What I am going to do, though, I'm going to take a little piece of excess Kynar wire that I've got laying around, make my life a little bit easier to work with, and I can get in here exactly where I need to be, straighten the end of him out just a touch. There we go. This is going to be the perfect thing to fix this with, because we're going to be able to come in here nice and low and tight. Okay. So now we've got a little bit of solder on our leg. We're going to apply a little bit of flux. Now let me tell you this. When I go to solder the other side of this down to the board, I'm going to lose this part on this leg. This is where the fight of this comes in just a little bit. However, when you get it, you'll know. And I say you'll know because you'll be able to grab your tweezers, give him the wiggle test, and he won't come loose. Now that little trace is coming down here to this via right here, what it looks like to me. So what we might do, actually, not only is it coming to this via, but it's tied to this leg right here. Are those all tied together? Let's take a good look. That trace leaves. That trace comes down here, hits this via. It's this via. And then it comes on down here and ties into this. It does indeed. Okay, so that being the case, we're going to make our life even easier than we thought it was going to be. All we're going to do is we're just going to tack it to this leg and be done. All right, we can do that. There we go. Let's make sure that this over here is soldered real good. And it is. We can slide back up here, take our flush cutters, nip him off. And that is repaired. What I'm doing now is taking my fingernail and pushing on it. We're going to push on this a bunch of different ways to make sure she's not going to shake loose or come loose on us at all. She's not. She's in there pretty good. Cool. So that job's done. All right, I'm going to go eat dinner, and then I will swing right back, and we will finish this board up, put him back together, and go test him out. All right, guys, welcome back. So we wrapped up finishing our repair on this guy here, and we're going to put a little bit of lacquer over this. This is just standard clear nail polish lacquer that's on it, and we're only putting this on there just so that nothing touches, so that we've got a little bit of coating on it. And we're going to put him on here. Just coat that wire a little bit. I always keep a little bottle of this. Some people use solder mask, which you can absolutely buy. Nothing against solder mask whatsoever. Absolutely works fine. So does this. Solder mask costs a little bit more money than this. And this is a little bit easier to remove than solder mask is. And that's why I use it. So the first thing we're going to do, I've got my tray of nice shiny clean parts over here, semi-clean. I've got my jar of paper towels, or my handful of paper towels. And we're going to start reassembling this guy one at a time, one thing at a time. First thing we're going to do is put the triggers back together. You're going to hear me blow quite a few times. As we do this, just kind of ignore that. That's just me triple checking and making sure there's no water left behind in anything. Not for any particular reason whatsoever. I just would like to make sure, one last little puff of air to make sure there's no water left behind on the circuit boards or inside the parts. It's going to drip down onto anything. For the most part, we're going to speed through this. I'm going to put this on fast forward so you guys can see me finalize the reassembly on this guy. And we'll get this guy put back together, and then we'll double check and make sure everything's functional. We'll be ready to rock and roll. All right, guys. Let's go to high speed. Alright guys, that'll about do it for this video. We've got them all wrapped up, tested. I haven't synced it to anything. Well, I did, but my test Xbox is sitting over there in the off position, unplugged. I keep a Project Scorpio over there I test stuff on. At any rate, it's got cleaned up, looks really good, came out amazing, everything functions on him, and she's ready to be used. I appreciate you guys watching this video, taking the time. Hopefully this was a little bit educational and taught you how to replace a couple things on there if you had never done it before. I appreciate you guys' time spending it with me. If you like this video, be sure to hit that like button. Subscribe, hit the bell icon so you get more notifications for videos like this, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks, guys.